give us a call, 800-788-0941. Remember, knowledge is power. Hi, I'm Dr. Lenore Coleman, President and founder of Healing Our Village and Executive Director of Total Lifestyle Change. Welcome to Diabetes, the Truth About It. Is your blood sugar under good control? Do you understand the effects of diabetes on your eyes and kidneys? Are you on the correct insulin injection? Are you having trouble controlling your weight? Are you following your physician's advice? It is critical that you're using your diabetes medicines correctly. Diabetes, the Truth About It, is here to help you. Check out HOV Health to learn everything you need to know to manage your diabetes and prevent complications. If you have diabetes, you need to be careful not to get low blood sugars known as hypoglycemia. Normal blood sugar is 60 to 100 milligrams per deciliter. Low blood glucose or hypoglycemia happens when your blood sugar is less than 70 milligrams per deciliter. Everyone with diabetes should be using a blood glucose meter at home to test their blood sugar during the week and when you think you're having a low blood sugar reaction. If you do not have a blood glucose meter, Healing Our Village has low-cost meters and strips available. The signs and symptoms of low blood sugar are as follows: feeling shaky, sweaty, having a headache, feeling hungry or tired, feeling confused or angry, having a fast heartbeat. If you're experiencing any of these symptoms, the way that you treat low blood sugars is by drinking a half a cup of orange juice or apple juice, 1 cup of skim milk, or eating 6 hard candies, not chocolate candy, eating 1 box of raisins, or drinking a half a cup of soda with sugar. After you take these fast sugar sources, follow with a slow sugar source, like a meat sandwich, and then test in 15 minutes. If your blood sugar is still less than 70 milligrams per deciliter, report this to your doctor and repeat the sequence. Be sure to tell your doctor if you are having frequent low blood sugar reactions. Thank you for watching Diabetes, the Truth About It. If you have diabetes, you need to know your numbers. A normal blood sugar is 60 to 100 milligrams per deciliter. If you have diabetes in the morning, we want your blood sugar to be 90 to 130 milligrams per deciliter. During the day, your blood sugar should not go higher than 140 to 160 milligrams per deciliter. You need to know your ABCs. A is for hemoglobin A1C, which should be less than 8% with a goal of 7 to 7.5% based upon your age. This test should be done every 3 months. B is for blood pressure, which should be 130 over 80. You should check your blood pressure 4 times per week at night. If you do not have a blood pressure cuff, call Healing Our Village so we can get you on our remote monitoring program. C is for low density cholesterol, which should be 70 to 100 milligrams per deciliter depending upon your cardiovascular risk score. It is important to know your numbers. Take control of your diabetes to prevent complications. Thank you for watching Diabetes, the Truth About It. Do you have diabetes and cannot figure out what to eat? A balanced diet will help you keep your blood glucose levels in check. Look around you. How many overweight and obese people do you see? We now have an estimated of 160 million Americans who are either obese or overweight. Nearly 75% of American men and more than 60% of American women are obese or overweight. Nearly 30% of boys and girls under age 20 are either obese or overweight. So ask yourself, what's going on? Well, I can tell you, it's fast food and the fact that we're not getting our daily exercise. We know that African Americans and Latinos have especially high numbers, mainly due to what they eat. For people with diabetes, healthy eating habits are especially important. The first step is to have your doctor refer you to a dietitian or a certified diabetes educator. Watch your portions. Eat small meals with lots of vegetables, small amounts of meat and poultry. Avoid cookies, candies, cakes, and other foods that are high in sugar. Try to drink at least 8 to 10 glasses of water per day. Try not to skip meals. Try to eat at least 2 to 3 meals a day and snacks. Never let your body get into what is called starvation mode. Try to eat your biggest meal for breakfast and lunch and have a small dinner. Consider having a soup or salad for dinner. Remember, it is still calories in, calories out. Men should eat about 1,800 to 2,000 calories per day. Women should eat about 1,200 to 1,500 calories per day. You need to start reading your food labels of everything you eat. Focus on the percentage of fat, sugar, and salt that is on the label. People with diabetes do not need to be on a special diet. Just think ahead and plan your meals with a little bit from all of the food groups. Thank you for watching Diabetes, the Truth About It. For more information on how to control your blood sugar, sign up for Village Club today and get your own personal diabetes coach. Go to www.hovhealth.com or call 800-788-0941. Remember, you too deserve to live a long and healthy life. Hi, thank you so much for watching Diabetes, the Truth About It. If you have any questions or comments, give us a call at 800-788-0941. If you'd like to see more videos on diabetes or other chronic diseases, go to hovhealth.com. Join us on Facebook and Instagram. We are also excited to announce our brand new mobile app called Step Up 90. It's for weight loss and diabetes prevention. Go to the website and try our 30-day free trial. If you have any questions, again, give us a call, 800-788-0941. Remember, knowledge is power. Welcome to Saturday and our Sugar Busters series. You know, I am blessed that I was able to wake up this morning. My mom used to always say I have full command of my mind and my body. I'm able to get from point A to point B, and that's a blessing. And I welcome all of you today to come into our Sugar Busters series. As you know, every Saturday from 11 to 12, we talk about everything you need to know about diabetes management. Part of our Healing Our Village diabetes program. At Healing Our Village, we have two programs. We have the diabetes self-management program, and then we have the diabetes prevention program. So on Saturdays is when we do Sugar Busters, which will help those of you out there that have a diagnosis of diabetes to get your diabetes under better control. You know, we're doing a pretty bad job in terms of getting people to their A1Cs of 7 to 7.5%, getting people's blood pressures down to 130/80. We're not doing so good. I really am going to ask every single one of you, and if any of my pharmacists out there are watching the program, I need every single one of you pharmacists, you doctors, to be sure that any and every patient that you have on insulin, you need to send through the Village Club, Healing Our Village Diabetes Self-Management Program. It's really important. I had a patient that I've been working with over the last week. They actually live in North Carolina, and they were hospitalized 4 weeks ago with a blood sugar of 600. I started working with him about 7 days ago, and now his blood sugars are averaging between 113 to 160. And that's good numbers, okay? 113 to 160 milligrams per deciliter. When I have my patients wake up in the morning, their blood sugars should be between 90 and 130. So he's right in the middle of that range. He's feeling better, he's eating better, he's lost some weight, and he's not having these wide swings in his blood sugar because he was on the wrong doses of insulin. His insulin therapy was upside down. You have many, many people out there who are using insulin, which, by the way, is a dangerous drug, and you're not dosing it correctly. So I really am encouraging everyone, at the sound of my voice, if you're using insulin, you need to work with one of my Healing Our Village diabetes educators so we can just double check to make sure that your blood sugars are correct and that you're not having high blood sugars or low blood sugars. Low blood sugars can be very, very dangerous. So I'm so glad again you're here. Today we're going to do our sixth session, which is called Goal Setting, Coping Skills, and Managing the Stress and Depression that you might be having because you just found out that you have diabetes, or you've had diabetes for a number of years and you just wish you didn't have this problem. So that brings on a lot of stress, that brings on a lot of depression. So we're going to cover these three topics today, and I want to start off with this slide. And this slide says, you are your primary care provider. When I started my patient on my program 7 days ago, I let him know he has to call me. He had to call me every day. Actually, he called me 3 times a day because he was just starting on insulin. And so I needed to know what his breakfast, his lunch, and his dinner blood sugars were, so I could then calculate how much insulin he needed to take for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then his once a day long-acting insulin. I had to figure that out. And so he had to call me 2 or 3 times a day. Well, the first day we got started, he didn't call me. And I got busy and, thought about it. In the afternoon, I called him and I said, hey, what happened? I thought you were going to call me. He said, oh, I forgot. I said to him on that day, I said, listen, let me explain something to you. You are your primary care provider. You are the captain of your team. Okay, see, I'm on your team, but you're the captain and you are the quarterback of your team. So you have to call the plays. I'm not calling the plays. I'm just on your team to make sure that I deliver the plays and I help you take this ball into the end zone. That's my job. But you have got to embrace the fact that your blood sugars are high, that you may or may not have a diagnosis of diabetes, and then you and your educator need to work together. You and your doctor need to work together to set your goals, and then we're here to help you achieve your goals. So this is really important. I talk to patients all the time. We do health fairs, or at least we used to pre-COVID, all over the country and abroad. And people would say, well, my doctor takes care of that for me. Okay, well, no, your doctor absolutely is taking care of it, but you need to make sure that you're taking care of it, because your doctor can't be there when you open up the refrigerator door. Your doctor's not there when you walk into a restaurant and sit down at the table. All right, your doctor's not there when you're running late and you have to drive through a fast food restaurant to get some lunch or to pick up some dinner for the kids. So they're not there. And so you have to be in control of what's going on with your diabetes. Now, this is the title of this slide is self-management goals. See, you have to set your self-management goals. All right, and part of those goals will take into consideration a number of things. So, relationships. Okay, I'm not talking about dating. This is not a dating game. I'm not talking about that kind of relationship. I'm talking about your relationship with your food you eat, your relationship with the behavior changes you're going to make with your lifestyle, and some of your relationship with the people in your inner circle. You know, I have a lot of friends, I have a lot of colleagues, people I have met over the 40 plus years that I've been doing this. But there's just a handful of folks that I bring into my inner circle. Because those folks have to be there to help and not hurt. They help me control and manage my stress. They don't bring me no stress. All right? So we're going to talk more about that as we go on. But one of your self-management goals is you have to figure out what's going on with relationships. You also have to figure out how you can be as productive as possible. Some of you are still working. You have to manage your diabetes and still get up and go to work every day. You're going to have to manage your spirituality, how that works, and also your healthy lifestyle. We want you to have a very, very healthy lifestyle. And then you got to figure out how to reward yourself, and we're going to talk more about that. But again, you're the quarterback of the team, so you have to figure out how you're going to adhere to the instructions and the management that your doctor prescribes for you. Now, many of you go to your doctor sees you, it takes about 7 minutes, 7 to 10 minutes, they're in and out. They're usually talking pretty fast. And you only hear about 50% of what they say to you. You leave that office, you call me up and tell me you don't have a clue what your doctor just told you to do. You don't have a clue. Okay, so what I need you to do is you need to start taking a pad and pencil, good old-fashioned paper and pen, to the doctor's office. Or pull out your cell phone and say, wait, doc, let me go to the notes section on my phone so you can write down what they're telling you. So when you leave the office, you can remember what they said. Because you can't adhere and follow their treatment plan if you don't know what the treatment plan is. So adhering to the treatment plan is really, really important. So all of these things are what you're going to be balancing over the next 3 to 6 months to be able to get your numbers for your blood sugar to target, which is when you wake up in the morning, it's supposed to be 90 to 130 milligrams per deciliter. And when you go see your doctor twice a year or more often, and you're supposed to be say, doc, what's my hemoglobin A1C? And you need that number to be between 7 and 7.5. That's your goal for A1C. So you're responsible for making sure you ask your doctor about those things. And let me add a few more things to your list. You got to ask your doctor, how are my kidneys doing? You need to know what your eGFR is. That's your glomerular filtration rate. How well is your kidney processing the toxins and the waste and the water out of your body? How well are your kidneys functioning? Do you have protein in your urine? You need to ask that question. It's important because there are certain medications that actually help the kidney that people with diabetes use to control their blood pressure, or sometimes even if they don't have blood pressure. So you need to know that you're not spilling protein and that your kidneys are functioning at a good level. So that's another question you need to be asking your doctor. All right, so you have a list of things that you need to know so that then you can then self-manage your diabetes. So now part of self-management is you got to set some goals. And in order to get to your goals, you have to develop a plan. Now, your plan must answer the following questions. What am I going to do? Okay, you got to know what you're supposed to do every day. All right, and listen, it's really specific too. Every day of your life from now on needs to be somewhat structured, and you need to have a plan for how you're going to eat 3 meals a day, how you're going to get your water in, how you're going to get your 150 minutes a week in. So that's 30 minutes a day. So you got to figure out, what am I going to do? And then you're going to figure out how much you're going to do. So if you're just starting out exercising, well, maybe you can't do 30 minutes. So you're going to start off with 10 minutes. And maybe you do 10 minutes 3 times a day and start working yourself up so that your endurance is better. You're going to ask yourself, when am I going to do it? Am I going to do my exercise before I go to work? Am I going to do it during work? Am I going to leave maybe your job? Maybe some of you have a flexible schedule. You can actually fit your exercise in during your work day. Or maybe it's at night. One of the things that I used to do when I worked at the VA hospital is we were blessed to have a 1-hour lunch. And I was at the VA hospital, so they actually had a gym at the hospital, a basketball court, and it actually had some exercise machines. So instead of going and eating lunch, I would take my hour and I would go work out. And then 3 days a week, I would also not only work out during my lunch hour, but I would go and walk around the track. They had a track at the VA hospital that I worked at. So myself and one of my colleagues, we would go and we would walk a mile around this track. So that was probably the thinnest I have ever been, because I was able to work exercise into my daily routine without having to work so hard to figure it out. So you got to know, what am I going to do, how much I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it, and how often I'm going to do it, and then how confident you are that you can actually achieve those goals. So you got to figure out on a scale of 1 to 10 how important that goal is to you, and then how confident you are that you're going to be able to hit that goal. In most cases, most people maybe set the goal really high. They'll say, oh, well, I think on a scale of 1 to 10, exercising is an 8. And then when I ask them, how confident are you that you're going to be able to get exercise into your schedule every day, they say 4. So they think it's important, but they just don't know how they're going to be able to get it done. So you need to sort of look at your score, assess your confidence score, and you need to have how important you think something is and how confident you think you're going to be able to achieve it. They need to be lining up. They need to be close in terms of the number. So now there's some steps to goal setting. So identify the changes you want to make. And I'm telling you right now, you need to pick one thing, no more than 2 things, okay? Because if you're too ambitious, what's going to happen is you're not going to get nothing done. So try to identify one change that you want to make. So when I usually start counseling patients, well, the first thing I tell them is, I want you to stop drinking your calories. So anything that's a liquid that goes into your body needs to have 0 calories. That's the first thing I want you to do. So all of you out there who are driving through the fast food place and getting you a big old 16 ounces of sweet tea, you got to stop that. Because if you look at how many calories is in that 16 ounces of sweet tea, it's almost a meal. All right, so you got to stop drinking your calories. So identify one thing that you might want to do. All right, identify the steps. How are you going to achieve that goal? How are you going to achieve that thing? So let's say my goal is I'm going to exercise 30 minutes a day. So now I got to figure out how I'm going to do that. What time I'm going to do it? Am I going to the gym? Am I going to just walk up and down the stairs in my house? Am I going to my local park? How am I going to do this, right? And then you need to break these changes down into small changes that you think are achievable. They can't be too easy, so you need to challenge yourself. And it needs to be a behavior, something you know you can do. So I can't set a goal that I'm going to run a 10K because I can't run a 10K. Okay? Not today. Now, I might be able to say I'm going to set a goal that in 6 months I'm going to enter a 10K race and I'm going to start training right now to get there. But I'm not going to set that as one of my changes or one of my behaviors because it's not achievable for me right now. The other thing is you got to figure out something you want to do. Because if you hate it, then you're not going to do it. All right. So I do not like going to the gym, getting on a treadmill. That makes me crazy. I don't want to do that. Now, I'd rather be outside walking. I'll go to a park and maybe walk around. But, that might be a little hard for me too. Because that means I got to get up, get dressed, get in my car, and drive to the park. So I try to always do something that's super easy that I love to do. So I'm really excited because summer's almost here. Summer's coming. I live in Georgia. It's going to start warming up here in April, May. That's going to make me happy because I'm blessed to have a swimming pool in my backyard. So what I like to do is swim. And I will get up every day and go out there and I will do my exercises in that pool and I will swim some laps. So you have to figure out what you want to do. And then you got to do it. So things to think about as you're trying to set your goals. You got to think about how you're going to eat healthy. What does that mean? What does healthy eating mean exactly? What it means is for people with diabetes is you need to try to eat 3 meals a day. You need to try to eat a couple of snacks. You need to try to decrease your starches and your sugars. You need to not drink your calories. That is considered healthy eating. You need to not fry your foods. You need to try to grill them or use one of those hot air fryers. All of those are the components of healthy eating. We have a whole Sugar Busters segment on nutrition. So you got to tune back in every week because if you haven't heard that session, you definitely need to hear it. And you can always go to our website, hovhealth.com, and all of my Sugar Buster series is up there. You're going to think about physical activity. We talked about that. You're going to think about your weight. Do you know how much you weigh? Do you own a scale? All right, a lot of you don't want to know how much you weigh because it'll make you depressed. All right, but you got to get on a scale. I'm sorry. You got to weigh yourself. And then you got to weigh yourself at least a couple times a week because you want to make sure you're losing and not gaining. You don't want to gain. And it's easy to gain. It takes me 2 weeks to lose 5 pounds. And I can gain 5 pounds in a day. I'm not playing. So it is easy to gain weight. It is hard to lose weight. So you need to be monitoring your weight, and it means you got to get a scale. If you have diabetes, I need you to have a blood glucose monitor. Everybody needs to be monitoring their blood sugar at home. If you have diabetes or any other chronic disease, you got to be taking your medications as prescribed, but you also need to make sure you're on the right combination of medications for you. One size does not fit all when it comes to drug therapy. And that is why I encourage all of you who are on a lot of medications, or even a couple of medications, or if you're on insulin, it is critical that you talk to my pharmacist so you'll be able to have them make sure you're on the right combination. You got to think about how you're going to decrease some of your bad habits. There are some still out there who smoke cigarettes or cigars. You got to stop smoking if you have diabetes or heart disease. And then you're going to have to figure out how to cope with stress. Now, for those who just tuned in, we're talking about Sugar Busters, goal setting, coping skills, how to manage stress and depression. We're going to take a short break. Get up, walk around your living room, walk around your house, go get yourself a cup of water, and we're going to be right back.
epigallocatechin gallate, superoxide dismutase, glutathione peroxidase. Now, those are names you probably aren't familiar with, but you should be. Those are antioxidants known to fight free radicals. In fact, did you know that some viruses are actually alcohol resistant? One major study showed that by adding the epigallocatechins from green tea, it killed the virus on contact. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mark Johnson. I'm here to share with you an exciting new, technologically advanced, patent-pending green tea hand sanitizing wash from Handout Protection. Now, this is not your typical hand gel designed to just smear all over your hand. This is a hand washing sanitizer to cover your entire hand, both the front and back of your hand, in between your fingers and your wrist. This is a non-sticky sanitizing hand wash designed for convenience to take with you in your purse, pocket, or carry in your lunchbox. As Dr. Josh Ridge has stated, what goes on your body goes into your body. That is why we choose only the highest FDA-compliant ingredients, such as 75% isopropyl alcohol and organic green tea brewed with alkaline water. The only way to protect yourself and your family is to always carry a disposable package of Handout with you. This may be the only Handout you ever need.
Hi, welcome back. Welcome back to Sugar Busters. During this segment, we're going to be talking about coping and behavioral change. For those of you who have diabetes or have pre-diabetes, this is really important. You have to figure out how you're going to cope with this new diagnosis that you just got, right? And how you're going to change your behaviors to be able to deal with this diagnosis. So, the first thing you got to figure out is if you consider this diagnosis to be a death sentence or a life sentence. I submit to you that I'm a glass half full person. I'm never the glass half empty person. So I always look at the positive of everything. It takes a while. I've been practicing for 40 years, but I really focus on the positive aspects of anything that hits me in my life, right? So you might want to think about diabetes as a life sentence, because when you're now going to probably start eating healthier than you did before, trying to get your blood pressure down, making sure you know what your blood sugar is so you can get that number down. Up until the day that you got diagnosed, you had no idea that your blood sugar was high. You had no idea that high blood sugar was causing kidney disease and eye disease and heart disease. But now you know. And so this is actually a life sentence and not a death sentence. You can live a long, productive, healthy life with a diagnosis of diabetes. So now I always kind of go through, when I first start talking to patients, I say, so how did you find out that you had diabetes? What made you know that? Some patients say, well, I just went for my regular yearly checkup and the doctor did my blood work and called me up, told me to come back in because my blood sugar was high. Sometimes some people, just fall out on the floor. They pass out. Okay, because their blood sugar is so high, they've gone into what we call a hyperglycemic or high blood sugar hyperglycemic coma. So they find out they have diabetes when they wake up in the hospital because their blood sugar was super high. So everybody's story is different. But once you find out you have diabetes, who else needs to know? Your family. Because diabetes runs in families. Diabetes runs in families. And so everybody needs to know, because everybody needs to go get their blood sugar checked to make sure that their blood sugar is in control and not out of control. And then when you told people that you have diabetes, what was their reaction? You need to gauge that, right? Because a lot of people will actually scare you. And I'm here to tell you that you should not be afraid. You shouldn't be scared. Diabetes, as we just said in the previous slide, is not a death sentence. It could actually be a life sentence. So how others react to you and your diabetes, don't let that get you off track. You do need to figure out how you reacted though. So were you afraid? Did you have fear? Were you upset? Not happy? Because now I have this diabetes thing and now I can't eat what I want to eat. Did you get depressed? Did you get stressed? Because you remember your grandma, your aunt, your mom or dad, they had diabetes, and you remember what they had to go through, and it wasn't good. And so now you have anxiety about the fact that you have diabetes. Some people just say, hey, my doctor don't know what he's talking about. I don't have no diabetes. I know that for a fact. Because I do health fairs, and I have people that come to my health fair, and we do blood sugars at the health fair, and their blood sugars are 250, 300 at the health fair. And I say to them, wow, did anybody ever tell you have diabetes? And they say, oh yeah, no, yeah, about 2 years ago, I went to the doctor, and the doctor told me my blood sugar was high. But, I didn't tell the doctor. He or she asked me a bunch of questions, and I didn't tell them the right answer to some of them questions they asked me. So there's no way they could have known that I had diabetes, right? Because I didn't really tell them everything they needed to know to make the diagnosis. Or the doctor told them they had it, and they said, I'm not claiming it. I'm not claiming that I have diabetes, okay? All right. And 2 years later, they've got heart disease, their eyes are going bad, their kidneys are going bad, they got numbness and tingling in their fingers and their feet, all because they denied the fact that they had diabetes. So it's important that you do not go into denial. That's very important. And sometimes you just, you blame it. You blame it on your job, or you blame it on your family, or you blame it on the doctor or whoever. Very seldom do we blame it on ourselves. And we shouldn't blame it on ourselves because sometimes it's not our fault. There's a lot of people that have diabetes that aren't overweight. They didn't make themselves have diabetes. There is no blame for this because diabetes is genetic. It runs in families. So there is no blame. That's not a good reaction. We want you to get past that and get on to let's start to control our diabetes, right? And then what were my reactions to other people that now are in my program? Now you've got to find a doctor. Now you've got to find a gym. Now you've got to find a way to exercise if you don't have the money for the gym. Now you have to figure out where you're going to go shopping for your foods. All of that is your reactions to these other people, places that are now going to be part of your day-to-day life. So let's talk a little bit about depression. A lot of people with diabetes have depression. So I wanted to spend just a few minutes on that. So exactly what is depression? Well, it comes from a change in the chemical functioning of your brain. All right, so there are actually what they call neurotransmitters. And these neurotransmitters, they're in your brain cells, and they float around, and they are very important to helping you think and helping you feel. And when you have certain chronic diseases, it can affect or change the chemical functioning of your brain. Now, depression can also be what they call situational. So I just had a death in my family. Right now, there's a whole lot of people in the country that lost someone to COVID. Weren't able to say goodbye. Couldn't see him in the hospital. And that made you sad. And that made you have depression. Situational depression is not the same necessarily as the depression that happens when you have a change in the chemical functioning of the brain. They can be a little different. So there's that depression that is caused by stress, difficult life events, environment, and even there are certain medications that make you become depressed. I have a colleague and a friend. They just started on a new medication because they had seizures. And one of the new medications that they prescribed totally changed the way his brain functioned. So he couldn't remember anything. He was anxious. He was sad. He was really having a hard time. So if all of a sudden you start a new medication and you're not feeling good, all of a sudden you're sad, you're depressed, you're emotional. And God forbid, if you just started a new medication and now all of a sudden you're thinking about killing yourself, it's called suicidal ideations. You need to go back to that doctor and get off that medication immediately, okay? Because there are certain medications that is one of their major side effects. But we know that no matter what it is, if it's a change in the chemical functioning or if it's a life situation, depression can affect your ability to function day to day. And that is very important, that you get this under control. So when you have diabetes, it sort of doubles the risk of you being depressed, because it causes you to be a little bit stressed. We just went through what's your reaction to your diagnosis? Was it fear? Was it anxiety? Was it stress? Was it depression? So depression can lead to physical or mental functioning not being as good as it should be, not following your meal plan. All of a sudden, you start eating more instead of less, and then also not taking your medications as prescribed. So with Healing Our Village, when you come into our program, we like to have you take the depression test. There's a test out there with about 9 questions, and we have you take that depression test to see if maybe you have some underlying depression that you didn't know about, because that will help us make sure that we identify that and get you into some counseling, and also it helps you be better able to cope with your diabetes. It can be caused by people's reactions to stressful events, right? How well do you cope? Maybe you're depressed because you're worried about losing your kidney function. Or maybe you're worried about losing your eyesight or having an amputation. It also affects maybe your work environment. Potentially, if you're on insulin and you have to take insulin 3 times a day, the fast-acting insulin 3 times a day to cover your meals, one of those meals might be at work. And so the question is how are you going to deal with that in the work environment? Are you going to want people to see you injecting insulin? So all of these things now come up. You're going to have to figure that out. And you have to remember the damaging effect of diabetes on your relatives and friends. Sometimes you don't want your friends to look at you differently. You don't want to worry your family. And so because of all of that, you become depressed. Have you ever seen anybody or known anybody that's been depressed? I have. I have people in my family that are depressed. So if you've had someone that you know what it looks like. These are folks that are just not the same. They've lost a lot of the happiness and joy in their life. And when I identify that in someone that I know that I'm close to, I actually broach the conversation. I talk to them about, you seem like you're not doing so good. You seem like you're kind of down in the dumps. You're depressed. Is there anything that I can do? You can believe that a lot of our children right now, because of what we're going through with COVID-19, a lot of our children have become depressed because they can't see their friends. They can't necessarily go and do the things that they used to do. They used to go to the track practice or football practice, or they were in band or choir. They were in a lot of things that used to help them be happy and brought happiness and joy to their lives. And now they're not allowed to do those things. So you keep your eyes out for people that are in your close circle, friends and family. And if you see some of the signs of depression, Talk to them about it. Maybe you can be helpful. A lot of times people just need someone to talk to. The symptoms of depression are pretty clear. You can tell them. So you can tell when somebody's sad. You know, if you know someone well, if someone in your family or one of my close friends, and I call them up on the phone, I can tell by the change in their voice that something's going on. You parents out there, you know your kids. You can tell if something's going on. Maybe they're irritable. Maybe they have anger. Maybe they're worrying. Maybe they're feeling like they're not worth anything. They feel guilty because of something that really usually is not the case. Maybe they lost weight, but generally what happens is they gain weight. Sometimes they have trouble sleeping, but what I find is they sleep more. They just don't have the wherewithal to get out of bed. And in worst cases, they actually think about death or suicide. So how do we treat depression? Well, you got to go see a trained, let me say that word again, trained, licensed mental health professional, because you have to get into counseling. And they have really good support groups that can help you with that. There are medications out there that can help with your depression. So I encourage folks to be able to go out and do that. And some of you people who are into your natural remedies maybe have tried some St. John's wort, but that drug, though it may be a little beneficial for depression, has a lot of drug interactions. So before you start taking it, you need to run it by the pharmacist to make sure that there's no drug interactions with what you're taking. All right, let's talk a little bit about stress. What is stress? Well, stress can occur when there's an event that produces strain on you or on your life. A person thinks a situation is challenging or threatening. That causes stress. And stress is influenced by either you yourself, the people around you, or it's influenced by your environment. So what makes something stressful for you? What are your major stressors? Well, life events. Just thinking about you got to go to see the doctor and you know you haven't been doing what you're supposed to be doing, that can be stressful. Driving an hour to get to work on these crowded freeways, arguing with a spouse or a significant other, text messages, taking different tests at the doctor, holidays. Holidays should be happy and joyful, but holidays can be stressful. Those are called negative life events. But you know, there are some positive life events that are also stressful. Marriage. You know, I see people getting married, young couples, stressed out because this wedding has gotten out of hand. You got more people coming there. You got folks coming and you don't even know half the people coming. And you worried about the people you do know bringing 3 or 4 people with them. Then now you have to feed all those people. And you have to put them in a venue. And you have to figure out what your dress is going to be and what the food's going to be and what the cake's going to be and all of this stuff. Marriage doesn't have to be like that. I got married in my church, which was a small little church in San Mateo, California. I had 50 people. That's all I had to come to my church. That was people my mama knew. And the people that were, people that were in my life, mostly my friends. Graduations, stressful. And this time during COVID-19, we didn't have graduation. So graduation could be stressful, but not having a graduation could be stressful too. The birth of a child, all of a sudden you're not sleeping through the night. You up every 2 hours. And God forbid if the baby is sick or has ear infections or is one of those babies that cry a lot. Oh my goodness. New job. That's a positive thing. You would think having a new job is positive, but it can be really stressful because now you got to learn new things. You got to meet new people. You got to try to deal with a new boss. All of that is very stressful. So these are the life events that we have to think about. Also, as you're figuring out and how to evaluate this stressful situation. You have to bring to bear your belief system, your values, and your goals. And then you can change the stress level that you have. All right, so that's really important. You're in charge of this. You can change your stress. One of the things that happens when you get stressed is there are actually hormones in your bodies that secrete. These are called catecholamines. You got your glucagon, you got your epinephrine, you got your cortisol, your growth hormone. And these stress hormones actually is part of why you feel nervous, or your heart might beat fast, or you may feel a little sweaty when you get stressed. And we know that if you have diabetes and you get stressed, it can increase your blood sugar and it can increase your ketones. So we do not want you folks out there with diabetes to be stressed. So how do you cope? Well, it's different for everybody. There are good strategies and there are bad strategies. We want you all to adopt the good strategies. So help us. The good strategies help us to maintain control and feel less tense and relaxed. Bad strategies make you more angry, more sick, more tense, more tired. So here are some here are some examples of bad strategies. Sleeping more than usual, pulling away from your family, telling people to leave you alone. You just found out that your blood sugar is high, or that the doctor gave you some bad news and you hide it from your family. That can be very stressful. That's a bad strategy. Or you found out that you have a problem and the doctor gave you all these medications and things to do, and now it's time for the follow-up appointment, and you know you haven't done none of the things the doctor told you to do. So what do? You miss your appointment. That is a bad strategy. You just need to go in there, say, hey, doc, I didn't do what you told me to do, but I'm going to do better, all right? And just embrace it and keep it moving. Good strategies. You got to learn how to face your problems. You have to get into a routine. Try to structure and schedule your day as much as possible, all right? What I try to do is structure my Mondays through Fridays, and then Saturdays and Sundays, I don't know what I'm going to do other than this show. That's about it. After this show's over, I don't know what I'm going to do today. So I try to structure my life during the weekdays, and then during the weekends, I try to take some time off of that. Incorporating healthy eating and exercise into your plan, and just a little bit at a time. You don't have to do this huge major change today. You know, you can do this over a course of 3 to 6 months. And then if you achieve a goal, reward yourself for small successes. That is so important. Again, we talked about bad strategies: overeating, smoking, drinking too much, using drugs that make you not think about what you want to do. A lot of people are, smoke marijuana or do other kinds of drugs so that they don't have to cope. That is their coping strategy. That's a bad strategy. And spending money you don't have. For you women out there, men out there who are shopaholics, going out and running up your credit card is not a good strategy, all right? Because you're going to have to pay the bill when it comes. Again, good strategies are your exercise and meditation. For some of you who are not doing any kind of meditation, or maybe aren't spiritual, don't necessarily read their Bible or go to Bible study, but meditation is a possibility of something you might want to do. Or yoga, because as part of yoga, there's a meditation component. In order to cope, there are some factors that you can do. So first of all, you have to learn more about what's going on with you. So write down what causes your stress, what causes your anxiety. In order to be in control, then you're going to feel better. So do fewer things, but do those few things better. Do not overcommit. That's my problem. I used to say yes to everybody and everything. I don't say yes anymore. In fact, I still am not doing as good a job as I should. So I have a friend, and she tells me, before you say yes, you tell them to call me. Some of you can't say no. So if you can't say no, get you a friend who can say no for you. All right? and then try to avoid stressful situations. And then, you got to include your family, your friends, go to support groups. All of these things help you to cope with the stress or the depression that you're having in your life. And if you maybe don't have a lot of friends and family, then, you can maybe go to a psychologist or a social worker. Or for those who go to church, you can go to your pastor, and they can maybe be that counselor for you. We want you to change your behavior. All right, so one of the things that I encourage is make sure you have healthy foods in your kitchen. So if you're trying to lose weight, you can't have a bunch of cookies and ice cream and cake and all of that stuff in your kitchen, in your cabinets. And I hear people say, oh, well, I buy it for the kids. No, okay? You're not buying it for the kids. You're buying it for you, so you can sneak a few. So take that stuff out of your house. The kids shouldn't be eating it either. Know your numbers. Take your blood pressure every day. Take your blood sugar every day so you know your numbers. And so then that way you can start getting those numbers down. And again, join a support group is really important. Healing Our Village has a nutritional support group. We're kicking off our next series April 1st. So we would love you to come and to our nutritional support group. You can do it right on Zoom. And we go through everything you need to know about nutrition. What have you already changed? You may have already started walking or biking or jogging. Maybe you've joined a book club. Maybe you started to go back to some of your hobbies. All of these are good coping strategies. Helps you to change your daily life and your daily behaviors. Relaxation techniques. We talked about meditation, yoga, but there's also deep breathing. If you can afford it, go out there and get yourself a massage. I bought a really inexpensive bubble spa that I have in my backyard. And so when I get really stressed out or I'm tense, I'd go jump in that hot water. Boy, does it feel good. So these are the things that you can do to sort of change your behavior. For those of you who like comedy, go to a comedy show. Laughter is the best medicine. So you got to keep your sense of humor. It actually, when you laugh, it causes endorphins, which are some of the chemicals in your brain, to be excreted, and it actually improves your sense of well-being. So laughter is a good thing. You got to set a plan. You got to create a plan. Once you create a plan, write it down on paper, identify the obstacles to your plan, and then take a look at it at the end of every month and seeing how you're doing, change it, and then measure your success. That is our show today, Sugar Busters, on goal setting, coping skills, and behavior change. And I want to thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it.